Piracy is the only weapon we have left to save the free market. My name is Klein, and over the course of this video, I'm going to explain why piracy corrects the free market, how it protects the free market, and how it is the best weapon we have to fight back against the anti-consumer capitalist monster that is consuming modern-day America. As Steve Jobs said, it's more fun to be a pirate than to join the Navy. So welcome aboard, yar! Capitalism, in its ideal form, thrives on competition, which means, to truly beat the game, one must destroy all competition. But what happens when that competition is killed off? When corporations consolidate powers in a monopoly, stifle choice, and trap consumers in walled gardens. What you get isn't capitalism, it's just feudalism. And this is exactly what's going on today. Corporations are suppressing competition through the use of exclusivity deals, digital rights management, and licensing restrictions. Digital rights management, or DRM, is a set of technologies and techniques used by copyright owners to control access to and use of digital files. DRM essentially takes away control of digital content from the person who possesses it and hands it to a computer program, allowing creators to control what users do with their content. Furthermore, DRM technology is protected by law, forbidding users from altering it. While the goal of DRM is to supposedly protect copyright, it has been used to maintain harmful anti-consumer and monopolistic practices. Ebooks are a prime example of this. If you purchase an ebook through Apple Books or Barnes & Noble and then decide you want to read it on a Kindle, you will be unable to. Even if you get over the hurdle of proprietary ebook formats, the files will be protected by DRM systems that are not compatible with other devices. This results in artificial scarcity and a walled garden effect, violating the principle of ownership and locking users into a specific ecosystem by increasing barriers to entry and switching costs. If you own a Kindle, you can only purchase books from Amazon, and you can only read them via Amazon's ecosystem. Piracy is a valuable weapon to combat DRM-enforced vendor lock-in. In this context, piracy acts as a tool of consumer agency to restore the lack of interoperability that DRM presents. If I buy an ebook, it should be readable on any device, just as the physical book is readable in any hand. Unfortunately, as a result of DRM, if I purchase an ebook from Barnes & Noble, I am unable to read it on my Kindle. Once again, piracy steps in as a form of market correction. By downloading a DRM-free version of a book they already paid for, consumers reassert their freedom of choice by owning a copy they can access on any device. The core issue with the DRM is that, in practice, it doesn't prevent theft. Rather, it prevents ownership by preventing legitimate buyers from using their media freely. A pirated copy gives consumers what they already paid for, a usable file that they can read on any device. Imagine if you buy a book from a bookstore, but you're only allowed to read it on park benches using your left hand, and the bookstore is allowed to take it back anytime. That's not a bookstore. That's just an awful library. It's a book rental. Piracy, ironically, returns ownership to the user. You've probably seen this ad. I'm sure some of you have heard that the music for this ad was, ironically, stolen. And while that is a compelling story, it is unfortunately untrue. It's a misconception that comes from a lawsuit between the same two parties involved, but for a completely different video. If you want to read more, there's links in the description to all my sources in the order that they appear. What I do want to address is this argument right here, that piracy is equivalent to stealing a car. This is a false equivalency. If I go out right now and steal a car, then the owner loses access to it. That's stealing. Unless it's a LATA, in which case that's just redistributing the means of transportation. The difference is, when you copy a file, the original file remains untouched. The original owner still has access to it. They still own it. Except this analogy is irrelevant because it assumes buying something means owning it, and in this age, that is less and less the case. As it turns out, we don't own anything. That's another win for the LATA owner, I guess. Get it? Because it's a communist car. I already made that joke. If you purchase a game or a movie or an ebook, chances are you're not actually buying the product itself, but rather a license to access it under a specific set of circumstances. Valve, the owner of Steam, has recently made it clear that when you purchase a game, you are actually purchasing a license. Because of this, Valve retains the right to revoke access or prevent resale, effectively making users renters rather than owners, and this is something that is not limited to Steam. Amazon has remotely deleted purchased Kindle books or even locked people out of their accounts with no explanation, barring access to their ebook library. Apple's media terms and conditions clearly states that, quote, apps made available through the App Store are licensed, not sold to you. Apple reserves the right to remove content, making it unavailable to access or download. While these occurrences are rare, they shouldn't be allowed to happen in the first place, especially since some services, I'm looking at you, Amazon, don't let you download and back up certain purchases to a personal device. What piracy does is it offers consumers a more reliable and durable form of ownership in a system where consumers pay full price for products they can truly never possess. And if buying isn't owning, then is piracy really stealing? I said it. There you go. I said it. I said the thing people say. Except it's still illegal because you're breaking copyright law. So, in addition to protecting consumers, piracy also protects competition. A study published in the Journal of Cultural Economics found that when consumers perceive a digital good to be overpriced or lacking in value, they will often resort to piracy. It is for this reason that piracy can serve as feedback, indicating when pricing doesn't properly align with consumer expectations. A moderate level of piracy may have a positive impact on the profits of producers and sellers, according to research from Indiana University's Kelley School of Business. Piracy can act as shadow competition in monopolistic markets, compelling producers and sellers to offer better pricing and services. The Media Piracy and Emerging Economics report, published by the Social Science Research Council, finds that high prices, low incomes, and limited access to digital technologies are the primary drivers of piracy in developing countries. Piracy works as a mechanism for market correction, highlighting market failures and the need for better pricing. Piracy does more than just provide market competition, however. It also helps introduce new ideas to stagnant industries. Historically, piracy has been a driver of innovation and has acted as a catalyst for the modernization of industries. By exposing inefficiencies in existing systems, piracy can encourage experimenting with pricing, delivery, and access. Many modern business models have roots in piracy. Prior to 1999, the music industry had complete control over pricing and distribution. Albums were sold physically, and if you wanted the latest pop hit, you'd often have to buy a $20 album stuffed with filler slop to justify the price tag. There was no way to buy individual tracks, and no means to purchase any of the music digitally. And then, there was Napster. It's finally time. It wouldn't be a piracy video if I didn't talk about Napster. For those of you who weren't born 30 plus years ago, Napster was not some online cheap mattress brand, but a peer-to-peer file sharing service. With it, users would upload tracks they ripped from their CDs and make them available on Napster for other users to download. Overnight, it managed to destroy the music industry's business model and expose it as a machine built for profit, not the consumer. Within months, Napster had millions of users and was firmly established as a cultural presence. It was like 1-2-3 movies, but if your parents knew about it too. The industry, understandably, was pissed, lashing out with lawsuits from artists such as Dr. Dre or Metallica. On July 11th, 2001, Napster was hit by a court order and came crashing to the ground, which probably ruined the year for a lot of music lovers. Well, that and 9/11. The soul of Napster lived on, however. 2 years later, Apple would release iTunes, offering what Napster had proven consumers wanted, a legal way to download individual songs for only around $1 each. And it worked. While iTunes did not bring an end to music piracy, millions of people began turning to iTunes and other similar services to obtain their music. The change didn't end here, however. Napster helped lay the groundwork for music streaming services such as Spotify, Apple Music, and more. Napster proved that consumers wanted instant, portable, frictionless access to music. In 2007, Steve Jobs published an essay titled Thoughts on Music, where he examined the state of the music industry after 4 years of iTunes. Did you want to know what he talked about? DRM. That's right. It's coming back. Round 2. Quote, with the stunning global success of Apple's iPod music player and iTunes online music store, some have called for Apple to open the digital rights management system that Apple uses to protect its music against theft, so that music purchased from iTunes can be played on digital devices purchased from other companies, and protected music purchased from other online music stores can play on iPods. After analyzing the state of the industry and addressing controversy and issue around DRM-protected music files and various directions the industry could take, Steve Jobs proceeds to say this. Imagine a world where every online store sells DRM-free music encoded in open, licensable formats. In such a world, any player can play music purchased from any store, and any store can sell music which is playable on all players. This is clearly the best alternative for consumers, and Apple would embrace it in a heartbeat. If the big four music companies would license Apple their music without the requirement that it be protected with a DRM, we would switch to selling only DRM-free music on our iTunes store. Every iPod ever made will play this DRM-free music. In 2006, under 2 billion DRM-protected songs were sold worldwide by online stores, while over 20 billion songs were sold completely DRM-free and unprotected on CDs by the music companies themselves. The music companies sell the vast majority of their music DRM-free and show no signs of changing this behavior, since the overwhelming majority of their revenues depend on selling CDs, which must play in CD players that support no DRM system. So, if the music companies are selling over 90% of their music DRM-free, what benefits do they get from selling the remaining small percentage of their music encumbered with a DRM system? There appear to be none. If anything, the technical expertise and overhead required to create, operate, and update a DRM system has limited the number of participants selling DRM-protected music. If such requirements were removed, the music industry might experience an influx of new companies willing to invest in innovative new stores and players. This can only be seen as a positive by the music companies. It's right there. Steve Jobs, the founder of Apple, a company infamous for its own walled garden ecosystem, arguing for the abolishment of DRMs. DRMs do nothing to prevent piracy, in the end hurting both the consumer and the seller. The only way for a company to combat piracy is to offer their services through viable, consumer-friendly means at reasonable prices. What Napster did is it exposed a broken system and forced an entire industry to adapt. In situations like these, piracy becomes more than just a crime. It becomes a critique, forcing industries to innovate or die. And it works. When imagining the type of person who benefits from piracy, one may imagine an entitled freeloader looking to save a couple bucks. However, in reality, piracy serves a much broader and often overlooked audience, the disenfranchised. You name it, students locked out of textbooks, readers in locations without libraries, citizens trapped in authoritarian regimes. All these people benefit from piracy, which can act as a vital portal to accessing knowledge, culture, and truth. Ever since the first one opened in Philadelphia in 1736, public libraries have served as a distinct reflection of American ideals and philosophy, standing as a cornerstone of democracy, literacy, and social mobility. However, in the digital age, this model has begun to falter. Licensing restrictions, geographic inequality, and the increase of digital-only media mean that, even with their existence, many people can't access what they need through these illegal channels. Libraries can't buy or lend ebooks like they would physical books. Instead, they have to pay for pricey temporary licenses that may expire or be revoked. Beyond that, not everyone has access to a good library. A kid living in New York City is going to have way better access to information than some kid living in Armpit, Missouri. A library in a major city with millions of annual patrons is going to get way better funding than the rural rundown brick building that only sees the same 20 old people. Piracy helps fill this gap by offering information and services without gatekeepers. This goes the same for education. Scholarly articles are frequently locked behind paywalls. Textbooks can cost hundreds of dollars. Why do I need to spend $130 on a textbook when I can just get that same information free somewhere else? It's a scam. Someone needs to look into that because I'm tired of paying so much money for books. In instances like this, piracy goes beyond theft and becomes access for those without the means to afford such extravagant pricing. And when the barrier to access isn't merely a paywall, but an authoritarian regime, piracy returns the freedom of information to people, allowing them to bypass government censorship. To the oppressed, piracy isn't about getting something for free. It's about getting something at all. Ray Bradbury explores this idea in Fahrenheit 451. Bradbury depicts a world where information and media are strictly controlled and ignorance is enforced by the state. Yet, amid the fires of book burning, exist underground resistance groups who work to preserve and share the information forbidden by the government. While these groups depicted in Fahrenheit 451 are not necessarily pirates, they act in a similar vein, dispersing information and media from outside the boundaries of the law. Fahrenheit 451 is a meditation on access. Bradbury's firemen do not exist to stop criminals for the purpose of upholding the moral law. They exist to perpetuate a ban and control on information enacted by a reprehensible totalitarian government. Similarly, many anti-piracy laws and practices today are not about upholding the law or even protecting the rights of creatives. Rather, they are intended to restrict access to specific, controlled channels to maintain control over the consumer and maximize profits. In many ways, modern real-world piracy reflects the same ethos of the intellectual outlaws in Fahrenheit 451. Banned books, blacklisted journalism, or media taken out of circulation. Piracy keeps the flame alive in preserving and allowing access to forbidden content. Piracy is a problem. This essay is not intended to encourage you to start pirating movies or books or whatever, because at the end of the day, people do need to get paid. Some of the most creative and talented people in the world work hard every day in the name of art, and they deserve that paycheck. However, the current system is one that exploits both the creatives and consumers in the name of greed and control. Piracy is a problem, but just like a runny nose, it is not a disease, but rather a symptom. Anyone who chooses to pirate Arcane, All Quiet on the Western Front, what else is on Netflix? I don't pay for Netflix. Oh, Squid Game. These are all genuinely incredible works of film and art, and I'm sure those who pirate them would prefer to throw the creators a few bucks. However, due to exclusivity, ridiculous pricing, Netflix, please give me a student discount, and account sharing restrictions, it's just not an option. And it's ironic because in the early days, the Netflix we know today was itself a response to digital film piracy via BitTorrent. The point is, when consumers turn to piracy, they aren't rejecting creators. I'm sure many of us have bought a book we love after reading it for free from a library. Piracy doesn't destroy markets. It exposes a fragile and failing system. If you want to stop piracy, then fix the system. To use my earlier analogy, you don't stop a runny nose by duct taping the nose shut. Instead, you go and try and stop the cold. But how can we do this? Here's a few solutions. Number 1, if it is within your means, buy physical media. It's yours. You own it. You can lend it, resell it, preserve it. Even better, these days, it's super easy to rip a DVD, meaning you can take your movie files wherever. No company can shut down your DVD or bookshelf. Similarly, if you're still interested in digital media, look for DRM-free platforms such as GOG or Bandcamp, services that don't treat consumers like threats. Number 2, jailbreak your Kindle. Break the walled garden. Amazon shouldn't dictate what books you can read and where. It's super easy. I did mine in half an hour on a Sunday afternoon. Just do it. In addition to that, there are certain tools available that allow you to remove DRM from your ebooks, as well as music, movies, all sorts of digital files. Number 3, advocate for change. Educate your lawmakers on DRM or how digital licensing harms consumers. Petition for change and find ways to support organizations that campaign for digital ownership rights, such as the Electronic Frontier Foundation. Educate those around you and raise awareness. You can even share this video with someone if you want. Just saying. Piracy is not the enemy. It's an alarm bell. If companies refuse to offer fair pricing, real ownership, and open access, people will find a way around them. You can't stuff culture and knowledge in a box and expect success. Most people don't want to be a pirate. It's a hassle, and it hurts creatives. What we need to do is make piracy obsolete, bring down the walled gardens, and remind corporations that consumers are the real market. Piracy isn't the revolution. It's proof that we need one. Hi there, I just want to say thanks for watching. This is the first time I've ever done something like this on camera and in depth. So I had a lot of fun. Might do this again. This was a project for a writing class, but I really enjoyed it. I'll probably do this again, not for a class. So if you want to see that, do whatever, or not. Probably wasn't that good. It was fine. No, it was good. It was good. Yeah, but thank you for being here. Don't do illegal stuff. And yeah. See ya. Thank you. Please expose yourself to me. Please expose properly. Exposure. Overexposure. Are you exposed correctly? Or are you not sober? Overexposure. Please expose. Please, 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 please expose. I hope you're exposed properly and are in focus. Exposure. So stupid.